Renting an apartment in the UK can be very, very daunting for new immigrants, because as new immigrants, the first thing you want to do is to secure a roof over your head. So many persons try to get accommodation before they move into the UK, and most people are successful, but a majority of us, using myself for example, we're not successful in getting an apartment or an accommodation before arriving in the UK. Now, with the stress and how expensive it is for you to stay in an Airbnb, people are usually in a hurry to just take whatever accommodation that they come across. In fact, the most important thing is just to get a roof over your head at an affordable cost. Most immigrants, as much as take very expensive accommodation, most immigrants pay a lot of money. The circumstances in which immigrants are getting accommodation is very, very tough. So I know the story of so many people who have come to the United Kingdom, and at the end of the day they take on accommodation that by the time they spend a few months they realize that the terms were so tough or the property was not actually worth it. So in this video I'm going to be sharing with you some of the things that you need to look out for while you're trying to get an accommodation, some of the things you should seriously look out for so that you will enjoy your renting that apartment or accommodation on the long run. If this is something that you want to see, I encourage you to stick around and watch this video to the very end. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Genevieve. If you're seeing me for the first time, it's very pleasant. Welcome back to today's video. My name is Genevieve and I'm a YouTuber based in the United Kingdom with my family. I just moved as an international student to the UK, and on this channel I share my lifestyle and experiences living in the UK. So stick around, click the subscribe button, and let's dive into the video immediately. Generally, the first thing that you should consider when trying to rent an accommodation is your budget. Your budget is going to determine the area you're going to be looking for, the type of house, whether it's a flat, is a house, a terrace, semi-detached, or whatever, the number of rooms, whether it's going to be furnished or unfurnished. And as you're considering your budget, you have to consider the number of adults that are going to be renting that accommodation, because the letting agencies or landlords, they really want to know that you have a sustainable means of income. They want to see that you're working and you're going to be able to pay your rent, and of course that you have the right to rent an accommodation in the UK. So the budget you have is the very first thing you should consider. You should consider, after the budget has been determined, there are so many issues that arise when you want to rent an accommodation, like deposits, the issue of deposit and deposit protection. Okay, under the UK Renting Tenancy Act and laws, you're not supposed to pay more than 6 weeks of your rent as deposit, or more than 5 weeks, depending on the cap of your tenancy for the year. So if it is above £50,000, you're not supposed to pay more than 5 weeks rent. If it's more than £50,000, you can pay up to 6 weeks rent. However, most landlords have become very dubious, and they try to hunt tenants, and most times they try to make it difficult for you to recover your deposit. So what happens is that in that situation, the advice I would give, I would recommend that you always protect your deposit. There are so many schemes to protect your deposit. Recently, there is even a new scheme called zero deposit, where you don't have to pay all the amount to be able to rent, but you just pay 1 week rent. It's called zero deposit for you to be able to rent the apartment. Most landlords are not even collecting deposits anymore. Okay, so just be sure you don't need to pay all that 6 months, 10 months, if you can be able to provide that you're working and you can be able to pay your bills on a monthly basis. I hope that makes sense. The next thing is the length of tenancy. How many months are you going to be renting this apartment? Is it for 6 months or is it for 12 months? But no landlord has the right to make you to leave that accommodation in less than 6 months. You must at least stay in the accommodation, be able to stay in the accommodation for 6 months. No landlord can evict you in less than 6 months. That is actually the law. So many people get scared, as new immigrants. I understand. I was also scared. In fact, I'm still afraid of some certain things, but I'm just sharing this out here because I know that housing issue is something that affects us in a very serious way. Okay, so that's why I'm sharing this information. I have my own personal experience about renting. My last renting experience was not so wonderful because of the communication gap between the landlord and myself. There's an agent in between, and so the communication gap I'm not enjoying the tenancy for some reasons. Okay, so that's why I decided to share my experience on this issue. So you can stay for 6 months, for 12 months, and you can renew your tenancy even after the 12 months, depending on the agreement you have with the landlord or the letting agency, depending on the circumstance of the case. Another thing that you have to consider is the number of occupants that will be staying in that building. When you want to rent an apartment, there is always a specific number of occupants that the landlords usually state, or the agents usually state, that will be occupying that property. It is very important that you stick to your contract. Study your contract very well and stick to it. Okay, this can make you, because breaching any clause on your contract can make you to lose your deposit. It can even make the landlord to press charges against you, a whole lot of things, because most times the problem that most immigrants encounter is just that you are not reading your contract. Maybe when you moved into the house, you didn't take stock, you didn't keep a lot of evidence when you move into the property. Don't be so excited. Take your time, study the contract. Don't be so excited. Study that contract. Believe me, you might find something on the lining that will haunt you later on in the months to come. So I would always advise you, study your contract. In fact, the good thing that happened to me in my experience is that I took time to study that contract. So at every point in time, I was putting subsection of the contract. At every time that they have breached the contract, I was always referring to that contract. Do you get? So take your time to study the contract and know exactly what you are expected to do, your obligations, and then the right, and also your rights as a tenant. You have rights as tenant. I hope you know that. Another thing to consider is the bills. Who is going to be paying the bills? There are different types of people who rent apartments, different types of apartments. Some apartments are bills inclusive, some are not bills inclusive. Most of the times, the apartment, the accommodation is not bills inclusive, especially if they are not shared accommodation or student accommodation. So when they are not bills inclusive, do well to pay your bills. Do not desist from trying to fix the bills in the name of the landlord. I've heard so many stories of people are doing things, fixing bills in the name of the landlord or something. That's actually against the law. So be sure of what you can afford with the bills. So that's why your budget is important. Know the budget you can pay, and then know that because it's not bills inclusive, there are other bills you'll be paying: gas and energy bill, you're paying council tax, there are lots of other bills that is going to be accruing besides house. So while you are excited and in a hurry to take an accommodation, like imagine somebody who earns £1,500 as take home, and you went to rent an accommodation of 1,200. It's obvious that you're going to be struggling, because by the time you pay 1,200 or 1,250 as rent, you're still going to pay council tax, you're still going to pay energy and lights bill, you're not eating transportation and other things that you're going to do. So you can see that there's going to be a little struggle with the house rent. While I understand that the cost of housing is not something that you can affect so much, it's not something you can deal with, it's going up and up and up. I'm just putting this video out here so that you just put in all these things so that you can know how to manage your income and your expenses as they come, because you don't want to be stranded. You don't want to not have a place to put your head down living in the UK. The thing that you should consider is the council tax. Council tax is affected by the council tax band. There is band A to, I think, B, C, D, E, F, G, and all the likes of it. Depending on the band, the cost of your council tax is going to be either high or low. So look through to know the area. Any area you're looking at, look at the council tax band so that you will know how much you're going to be paying as council tax. This will help you to also, prepare your mind for what you're going to be paying. Some areas with their council tax can be very high, while some areas their council tax can be very, very low. So put all these things into consideration. Another thing also is the fittings and fixtures of the house. Are you letting the house furnished or unfurnished? Personally, this particular letting that I did, we rented this house furnished, and I regret renting a furnished apartment. In fact, when I was doing viewing, I had a lot of options. I had a 3-bedroom with this same amount that we are paying here, but it was unfurnished. That 3-bedroom was so clean and crisp. But because I viewed here first, and I mean, it was okay, and I was even tired, you know, it was just fine. I took this one and left other options that I had. And I can remember then I was still getting calls and upon calls and upon calls to come and do viewing and all. So the point I'm trying to make is, for me, I didn't have a good experience with letting furnished apartments. The furnitures were just like make believe. By the time I moved into this, in fact, before I moved in, the sofa was bad. I told them to take out the sofa. The landlord agreed. We moved in, and then the landlord did not take out the sofa. Up till now, it's been over 10 months. The landlord did not take out the sofa. We've been having a lot of issues on the furniture. The beds are bad, the mattresses, a lot of issues around the furnitures in the house, and it's been so horrible, very horrible. So with that experience that I had, I am not renting any furnished apartment. I don't know. While on the other hand, some persons have rented furnished apartments and they had good experiences with it. Good experiences. But for me, from what I know now and from the experience I have, I would just rather rent maybe a partly furnished house that just has the inbuilt refrigerator, you know, washing and all. But for my furnitures and all, I would rather get them by myself. And there are ways for you to get it, you know. Then I was just like, I'm not ready to come and start furnishing any place and all. But there are so many ways for you to furnish your house in this country without breaking the bank. In fact, you might even finish furnishing your house depending on your taste, and you might not spend so much. Like I said about places where you can get furniture to furnish your house, Facebook Market, you can buy from charity stores. If you get into charity stores and see furniture there and how much they are selling it, and you compare them with Amazon prices, you will see that there are so many ways for you to sort yourself out. So many websites where you can even get free things, trash nothing. There are so many places where you can get free things. Even on Facebook Market, you can buy some, while some are also free. So just sort yourself out. You don't have to break a bank to do that. So in my own opinion, I would never recommend a furnished apartment. Never. And even if you, for those that had good experiences, I also heard from them, the downside is when you're living there, that furniture has to be crisp. Like if anything should happen there, and I have kids. Okay, even though living here, my kids have just been, I've already spoken to my kids about how to behave around the things in this house. They don't belong to us. You have to be kind with it and all and all and all. But it's not even worth it. It's not. So whenever you start living in a house where you have issues with repairs and all of it, it's really frustrating. Another thing that you should consider, which is actually the final thing I'm going to talk about on this video, is the energy efficiency of the house. This is very important. Now, while I have complained about this house and, you know, the furniture that had issues and some parts of the house that needed repairs that weren't done by the landlord, one thing I've also enjoyed is that this house is actually efficient, has very good energy efficiency, if that's the way to say it. But it's warm. You don't have to spend so much on gas and all to keep this place warm. That is one thing I enjoy about this particular apartment. The bills are minimal. I'm not even joking. The bills are minimal compared to what other people are paying. So consider, ask questions about I think is whether it is double glazing. It should be double glazing, you know. It should be just energy efficient. How much? So because if it's all those very old houses that, you know, the energy rating is down, you're going to be paying a whole lot. You spend a whole lot on energy, and it's not even going to make sense on the long run. This is just for you to know that the decision you make in renting an apartment, like immediately you're paying that holding deposit, that any decision you make in renting that apartment is going to affect you for the next 6 to 12 months or even more than 12 months, because looking for accommodation in this country is not something you want to be doing like every 6 months or 12 months. So in this video, I've already shared with you everything you should know. If you find any of this interesting, please let me know in the comments about your letting experience. Let me know, is there anything that you have, any experience that you've had that you really want to share? I would really want to know this in the comments. And thank you guys for watching this video to this very point. I really appreciate it. I'll see you in my next video, guys. Bye.